Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to C programming on week 5. Today, what are we going to study? We are going to study repetition and loop statements. So, we'll consider the while statements, the for statements, then nested loops, then the do while loop statements, and the flag control loops. Okay, so what do we mean by repetition? So most often in the programming, sometimes you may want to repeat a block of code until certain condition is reached. Okay, so that's basically what we mean by loop. So loop is a repetition. So you keep on repeating until a certain condition is met. So once the condition is met, then you end your cycle or your loop. Okay, so basically that is it. So there are many usefulness of a loop. For example, in some application that does not end, they are placed in the while loop so that it continues to repeat over and over again. Okay. Then also, for example, if you are writing an application where you want to generate an ID for maybe a user, you can use a loop so that you generate the ID, then you check the value of the ID in the database and check if it doesn't exist. So if it doesn't exist, then you close the loop. But if it exists, you generate another one, then you check against the database and check if it doesn't exist. If it doesn't exist, then you can close the loop. If it exists, then you generate a new one and check. So you keep on checking until you get an ID which doesn't exist in the database. Then you use that ID for the new person uh, you are adding to the database, for example. Okay. Then certain block of code to instead of you to write it over and over again, you can also use a loop to run that block of code a number of times until a particular condition is met. So as a programmer, you have to make use of a loop. Okay. So in your future lessons, you also learn about an array. So if you are going through an array or a list of items, you may also use a loop to go through them until you get to the last element. Okay. So loops are very, very important. Okay. And there are a number of loops. So we are going to consider first the while statement. Okay, so the one statement, branch statements allow you to direct the flow of a program's execution down one path or another. The simplest form of looping statement is the while loop. And here's what the while loop looks like. So in the while loop, you write the while statement, then you have a condition. Okay, so you first of all initialize a variable. Then you write a condition that maybe while this variable is less or greater than the value. Okay. Then you write your block of code over here. Now in this block of code, you also must change the control variable that you are using for the condition so that at a point in time that condition will false so that the loop will exit. So if the condition is false, it will no longer go through this block of code anymore. It will skip it to the next line of code somewhere here. Okay. So always remember that your condition must be false at a particular point in time. Other than that, your loop will continue to go over and over again. So the rest of the code will never run. Okay. So your software or application becomes stuck because all the block of code will not be executed because the loop will continue over and over again. So if you are not using a loop that goes forever until maybe the program is closed, then you have to write in this block of code, change the value of your control variable so that at the point in time the condition will be false so that the loop will exit or end. So example, write a program that takes two numbers and outputs the minimum and maximum of the entered number. The program should repeat until a user decides to quit the program. So the program should repeat until a user decides to quit the program. So in this case, you have to create a variable. So you create a variable which initially you set it to a value and you check if that value is not equal to the expected value. So if it is not equal to that expected value, you write your block of code in that loop so that it will be executed. Now, after the last execution, you ask the user to enter, maybe for this example, you can ask the user to enter a character, maybe E to exit or another character to continue. So while the control variable for the loop is not equal to E, then the loop will continue until user enters C. So when the user enters C, then the loop will end. So first of all, you declare the variable, for example, E, then your condition will be that while your variable is not equal to E, okay, then you write your block of code to run this application. So you have you take two numbers, then you output the minimum and the maximum one. Then once you've done that, you ask the user to enter E to exit or another variable to continue. So once the user enters C, D or any other variable, it continues. When you enter E, then the next time it comes, the condition will false because E, the control variable maybe exit may be equal to E, so it will exit the loop, then the loop ends. Okay, so we are going to code this example. So you started your C block, code block. So first of all, you have so first of all we have our control variable. So you can write char exit is equal to. So first you can make it C. So in our condition, while our exit is not equal to E, okay. So when it is E, then the loop will end. Okay, so now so we write our application code over here so that then once we finish running our application code, we ask the user to enter a character. So in that character, if the character becomes E, then the loop will end because E will be equal to E, so the condition will false, so it will exit. Okay, so first we have to ask the user, so we can create uh, two variables. You either write it here, you can declare them outside, so however you want to do them. So if we declare them here, we have int a and b. Okay, so first we have the user listen number, right? The program that takes two numbers and output the minimum and maximum of the entered. Okay, so you let's do it float. So the user can enter point something or double. So let's say double. Okay. So int the user to enter the first number, then we get it from the user. So scan left. So this is double to percentage LF. Then end in our A memory. Then we take the second number. Okay. So now we check the second number, we store it in B. Okay. So if our A is greater than B, it means our B is greater. So A is maximum. If our A is greater than B, it means our A is maximum and our B is minimum. So printf, so minimum. Okay, so we write our placeholder percentage F, the maximum placeholder percentage F. Then we indicate our, so our maximum is A and our minimum is B. So we have B, then we have A. Minimum is B and our maximum is A. So S means that S means that B rather is the maximum. So our minimum will be A, our maximum will be. So our minimum will be A, then our maximum will be. Okay. So now we need to write. We need to get the value of exit so that if the user decide to enter the loop will end. Okay. So print F enter to exit or any other letter continue. Okay, and we get the value of our E. So scan F. Okay, now take note. In this ideal normal circumstance, we need to use our placeholder to be C. But because of the comparison we are doing over here, we need to use S. I think S to stand for string. Okay, so in this case, our placeholder for our character will be S. Okay, and we get the memory for that. So our memory will be exit. Okay. Okay, so now if a user enters G, then it will exit. But if not, then the program will repeat again. Okay, so we can print description of our program here. Maximum, minimum, maximum numbers. Okay, so enter the first number, you enter the second number, then you exit. Okay, so we'll save and run this. Okay, let this one begin in a new line. Okay, so enter the first number. So let's say 20.5. Enter the So the minimum is 20.5 and the maximum is 30. So enter E to exit or any other letter to continue. So let me enter A. Okay. So as you can see, it has repeated again. So I'll say let's say 10, the second number 5. Okay. So minimum is 5 and maximum is 10. Enter E to exit. Okay. So then if you enter E, now it will make our condition to be false because E is equal to E. So the loop ends. Then it ends over here. Okay. So that's basically an idea of a loop. Okay. So we can start after here. The next one that will continue, you can start it on a new line so that it looks a little bit nicer. So I run it again. Okay, so enter the first one, 6, the second one, 3. Okay, so minimum is 3, maximum is 6. So enter E to exit or any other letter to continue. So maybe I enter C. Okay, maximum and minimum number, enter the first number. So maybe enter 20 and the second number I enter 15. Okay, so minimum is 15, maximum is 20. So enter E to exit or any other letter to continue. So if you enter E, the condition becomes false because E is equal to E, then the loop ends. Okay, so that's an example of a loop. So if you're writing an application that you want it to repeat over and over again until user enters a particular letter to quit. So in your block of code, you can put your code for the application, or you can write a function and call the function in the loop. Okay, so it will execute that block of code in the function. Then once it's done, then you ask the user to enter a value so that at a point in time your loop will end. So when the user enters a value that equals, if you write this one as it's not equal to this, so once it's not equal to G, so when the user enters E, it makes it equal. So the condition becomes false. So your loop will no longer run because it will exit the block of code. Okay. So the concept is, I remember that at a point in time, your condition, your control variable must change so that your loop can end at a point in time when the condition becomes false. Okay, so you have to write your code in such a way that at a point in time the condition will be false for the loop to exit. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so here the numbers were declared at the top. Okay, then the repetition of the code is over here. Then it has the user to enter a number. Okay, so then it takes it. Okay, so if our exit is E, this condition will be false because E is equal to E. Then it will exit your loop. Then it ends. Okay, so basically that is what we've done. Then it says the character to determine whether to exit the loop or listen or run the code again is taken before the loop ending curly bracket. In other words, it's in the loop. Okay. So here, remember, don't put the character to control the loop is taken in the loop. If you put it outside, it will keep on running because it will not get to that line of code to change the value of your exit. Okay, so it's supposed to be in the loop so that it's change the value of the loop in the next cycle. Okay, if you put it outside, the loop will continue over and over again because it will not get to that block of code. Okay, so it's supposed to be inside so that it in the next cycle, then it will change based on what the user enters, so that it exits your loop. Okay. So in the next question, say write a program that prints out the numbers from 1 to 10 in horizontal, then in vertical. Okay. So from 1 to 10, it means you have to repeat the number over and over again until it is so you can initialize a variable to 1. So whilst your variable is greater than or equal to 10. Okay. When if you initialize it to 1, so either uh, less than, okay, so less than or equal to 10. So 1 is less than 10, then it will go through. Then in the loop, you increase the value of your I or whatever variable you use. You increase it so that in the next cycle it becomes 2, then you print it out. And then it becomes 3, then you increase it, it becomes 4, then you increase it, it becomes 5, you increase it, it becomes 9, then you increase it to 10. Then it becomes 11. So when it becomes 11, the condition will fall because you said while your variable is less than or equal to 10 and 11 is not less than 10, then your loop ends. Okay, so let's write the new code. Okay, so we can have our control variable int I initialize it to be 1. So here our control is while I is less than or equal to 10. Okay. So here we only print out our value of I. It says horizontal. So in the horizontal, so printf. So we have percentage d. This is an integer. So percentage d. Then we have to leave a space so that the next one it will not get close to the other one. So there will be a space, and let's say space after you printed it out, so that on the horizontal there will be spaces among them. Okay, then we indicate the value of our placeholder. So our value is I. Then we have to increase our value. So the increment is either you write I is equal to I plus 1. So this one will increase I, you add 1 to it, then the value will be inserted here. So initially our I is 1. So after this has been executed, it will add 1 to 1, it becomes 2. Then it will be stored here. Then it repeat when it is 2, it will add 1 to 2, then it becomes 3, then it will be stored here. Okay. Alternatively 2, so I'm going to comment it here. Alternatively, you can write I plus plus. So the I plus plus will also include the increment. So any one of them that you would like to use. Okay. So at the point in time when it increases and it becomes 11, because when it is 10 and you add 1 to it becomes 11. So when it comes to this loop, 11 is not less than 10, then the loop ends. So I'm going to build this one and run. Okay, so as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I'm going to comment this one and use the increment so that you know it is the same thing. So then I'll comment mine. So this one, this time we're using the I plus plus so that you know it's the same as increasing it by 1 at each cycle. Okay, so as you see, it's the same thing. So with the increment, you either write it this way by adding 1, then you store the value in the variable, or you can write the variable plus plus, which is also the increment. So anyhow you want to write it, it both work. Now if you want to make it vertical, then it means after each print out, the next one will start on a new line. So we just write slash n over here so that the new one will start on a new line. So it's the same code, just that we can add slash n so that the new one will start on the new line. to make it vertical. Okay, so as you can see, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so when it is 10, when you add 1 to it, it becomes 11. The condition is false, so the loop will not execute again. So it will skip to this side. Then your application ends. Okay, so basically that's it. Okay, so this one it did everything all together at a go. So the explanation, like I've explained to you, the plus plus. So here it uses a num, so num plus plus. So the plus plus add 1 to it. So when the program starts, our num is 1. So we check the condition. 1 is less than 10, so the condition will be true. It continues. Then when our num is 10, 10 is equal to 10 because they say or equal to 10. So this will be executed when our num is 10. 10 plus 1 makes it 11. So 11 is not less than 10, then it's false. So our condition will end, then the loop ends. Okay. So in general, you initialize your loop control variable, then you have your while. So you write the conditional statement. So in the previous week, we learned how to write a condition, the if condition. Okay, so you write your condition here so that and then you update the control variable so that at a point in time the condition will be false, then your loop ends. Now if you don't if you don't update your control variable, you get an infinite loop, a loop that doesn't end. Okay, so if your intention is for the loop to end at a point in time because you have other variable below your while loop, then you get an endless loop. Okay, so if your intention is to run other part of your code, so in that case, then you update your control variable so that at the point in time the condition will be false so that the loop will exit. Okay. Then the next is the do while loop. So the do while loop is similar to the while loop, except here the block of code is run first before the condition is checked. So a block of code will run, then we check the condition. So the do while loop runs at least once before the condition is checked because it will execute here before it will check the condition whether the condition is true or false. And when it is false, then it doesn't go again. But if it is true, then it repeats again. So it keep on repeating until the condition is false. But the idea is that it will run at least once. Okay. For the while loop, if the condition is false, because the checking is done at the top, it will not run at all if the condition is false. But for the loop, because the condition is checked at the bottom, it will run the block of code before it will check. So when it check and it's false, then it will not repeat again. So for a while loop, it runs at least once because it will run your block of code, whatever you put here, before it will check the condition. For example, if we make this one, if we make this one 10, no, if you make this one 11, if you make this one 11, now at the start of the program, 11 is not less than 10. So this block of code will not run at all because at the start of our program, our I is 11 and 11 is not less than 10. So this will not execute at all. So if I run this block of code, I will not see any printout on the screen. Okay, so you can see that there is no printout over here and the code has ended. Okay, but in the do while, so if we copy this condition, okay, we copy this condition and we put the do here, then we bring the condition over here, okay, then we bring the condition here. Remember, after the condition, there is a semicolon, we close it with a semicolon. So if you put the condition here, now this will run the block of code. It will run it because it it doesn't check at the top, so it will print 11 first. Now when it prints 11, it increases it to 12. Then before it comes to check if 12 is less than or equal to 10, and 12 is not less than 10, so then the loop will end. So it will run only once, but the idea is that because it doesn't check at the top, it will run before it check and see that the condition is false, so it will not do the second repetition. Okay, so if I run this, okay, so as you can see, it has printed at least once, so 11, and when it changed to 12, when it's checking again, it realizes that it's false, so it doesn't repeat. So when do we use the do while loop? The do while loop has an advantage. For example, if you are taking an input value from the user and you want to repeat it, if the value the user entered is false, is not correct, then you want to repeat it again, so that you keep on repeating until the user enters the correct input. Okay, so in that case, the do while becomes handy. Okay, so once you run it and the user enters the correct one, the loop is not repeated. If the user did not enter the correct one, then the loop will be repeated. For example, if I ask the user to enter a positive number, so if I ask the user to enter a positive number, then I will check if the number entered uh, is less than 0. So if it is less than 0, it will repeat again. It will tell the user to enter positive number. So it will be repeating until the number is not less than 0, then the loop ends. Okay, so in this example, I can write int num. Okay, so int num, then I can tell the user to enter positive number. Enter a positive number. Okay, so in your application where the input must be positive, then you can use the do while loop to check. Or for example, if you are taking the score from a user, so you check if the score value is not less than 0 or maybe more than 100. Okay, but in some score the person may get more than 100, because if there is a bonus and everybody is getting, the person may get 101 or 102. So you can, for a score, you can check if the value is less than 0, then you ask the user to repeat again. Okay, so let's say for example in this case, so we say enter a positive number. Then we get the number from the user, so scan f. Okay, it's an integer, so percentage d, then the memory name, so int num, a variable name is num. Okay, so our condition will be while our num, so it will repeat while our num is less than 0. While our num is less than 0. So if it's less than 0, it means it's negative. So it will keep on repeating until it is not less than 0, then the loop ends. So if it is not less than 0, we can print it out. So this is after the loop has ended. We can print it out. We can print out our number. So int have entered number. Okay. Percentage will show the number. Okay. So execute this. So enter a positive number. So I'm going to enter negative 2. Okay. Enter a positive number. I'm going to enter negative 5. Okay. So now this time I'm going to enter 2. So as you can see, when I enter 2, then the loop ends. So the loop will continue over and over again until the correct input is taken. that's the usefulness of a do while. So the do while will make it possible that it will run at least once. For example, if I enter the correct one, then it doesn't need to repeat. So if I enter 2 at the start, then it doesn't repeat. So it just shows the number. Okay. So if you want to take an input from the user, then you use the do while loop to continue to repeat the taking of the value until the user enters the correct input. Okay. So like I said, if you are going to take the score from a user, so you can have double score. Okay. So enter a positive number. So scan F. This is double. So LNF score. So while our score is less than 0. Now we can also check here. So here we can also write if our score is less than 0. Tell the user that score can't be negative. Then we repeat it again. Okay. So in this case, when the user enters something negative, we tell the user the score can't be negative. Then we repeat again. So we keep on repeating until here, if the score is no less than 0, this part will not run, and our descent has it. So then we can show our score that the user has entered. So score is double. So this one is supposed to be up. So let's run our code. If I enter negative 60 or 50, so the score can be negative, and enter a positive number. So here, uh, this should start on a new line. So I can put 10 here. Start on a new. So negative 8. Oh, this should run a here. Should run a here. So negative 18. Okay. So score can't be negative. Then it's repeated again. So if the person enters negative again, it will keep on repeating until the user enters positive value and it ends. Okay, so the score then shows the value. So the do while loop has that advantage. If you are taking an input from the user, you can repeat it over and over again until the correct input is taken. Then your loop ends. So that's one advantage of the do while loop over the while loop. So like I said, the do while loop runs at least once. Okay. So we continue. So like I said, the do while loop can be used for input validation. So you keep on asking the lesson. So in this case, the score cannot be greater than 100. So if it's greater than 100, it will repeat again. And if it's less than 0, it will also repeat again. Okay, so that the right input is taken. So this example. So now, once it has done that, then it can grade the person. So once the input is correct, then you can write a grading system to grade the person. Okay, with the grading system. So that's advantage of the do while loop. Okay. So if you are taking an input from the user and you want to repeat over and over again until the user enters the correct input, then you use the do while loop to do that. Then we are on the last loop. So the last loop is called the for loop. So the for loop is similar to the while loop, but the way it is being written is different. So for the for loop, you do the initialization here, then you write a condition here, then you do increment or decrement. So your control variable, you increase it or you decrease it. Now, when do you increase? When you are starting from the smaller to the highest, you keep on increasing until the condition is false. If you are starting from the highest to the lowest, you keep on decreasing until the condition is false. Okay, then this becomes your block of code to be executed while your condition is true. Okay, so for example, the same code we wrote to print out from 1 to 10 in the horizontal way. We initialize our variable. We can initialize our variable. If our variable is I, we just write int I. So int I, then we can initialize our I is equal to 1. So the condition will be I less than or equal to 10. Then we write I plus plus. Then we print out our value of I. So in each loop, it keep on increasing until the condition is false. For example, if our I is 11, the condition becomes false because 11 is not less than 10. Then the condition stop because then that condition is false. Then the loop ends. Okay, so let's write the code for our for loop. So first we declare the variable here. So int I in the for loop will initialize it. So for I is equal to initialization 1. Our I is less than or equal to 10. Then this is increment because we are starting from the lowest to the highest. So I plus plus. Okay. Then we can print out our value of I. So this one it is in horizontal. So horizontal we leave a space so that the next one will just not be close to the other one. What did I didn't show the value. So showing the I over there. Okay, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11. So if I want to use the vertical one, so slash n, so that each of them will be on the new line. Slash n. Okay, so that's it. Now if I want to start from 10 to 1, then my condition will become my initialization will be 10. So this time from top to the bottom it will be greater than. So was is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so that one the condition will also end at 0. No 1. So end at 1 because you are starting from 10 to 1. And then because it's starting from the top to the bottom, it's going to be decrement. So we decrease it. So at the first start our I is 10. Then the condition will be true because 10 is greater than 1. Then it will decrease it to 9. So the condition will be true because 9 is greater than 1. It will decrease it to 8. Then our condition will be true because 8 is greater than 1. Then we decrease it to 7. The condition will be true because 7 is greater than 1. Then continue, then decrease it to 1. Then the condition will be true because 1 is equal to 1. Then decrease it to 0. Now 0 is not greater than 1. Then your loop ends. Okay, so let's run this one. Okay, so as you can see, this one we are starting from the top, we are ending at the bottom. So for top to bottom decrement, and that one is we use greater than. From lower to the highest is increment, and we use less than. Okay, so basically that is it for the for loop. So you say write a program that takes an integer from the user and output the multiplication table for that user. For instance, if a user enters 2, the output should look something like this. So in the multiplication, so first we ask the user to enter the so int mods. So we have print enter the number. Then you get a value from it. So scan f. This is percentage because an integer, then the memory name and mods. Okay. So now we are starting from 1 to 10. We are starting from 1 to 10. 1 to 12. So while so I is equal to 1, I is less than or equal to 12, less than or equal to 12. This time we increase it. Okay. So in the multiplication table, 1 will multiply when our I is 1, it will multiply the number we've taken from the user. And when it increases, then it multiplies also. Okay. So here our value over here is going to be I times mod. Okay. So it's going to be I times mod. So when our I is 1, it will multiply. If for example, if the entered value is 2, so when our I is 1, it will multiply 2, then it will displace it to 2. Okay. So you can also do it like this times this. So you can have this times this. Okay, it's equal to this. Okay. So our first placeholder is going to be our I value. It's going to be the multiplication, so mod. Okay. Now our second placeholder is going to be our I value. Then our third placeholder is going to be the multiplication. Okay. So here, if user enters 2, this place will always be 2. So it's going to be 2 times 1. Then the multiplication will be done when our I is 1. When our I is 2, it becomes 2 times 2. Then the multiplication will be done. Then the value will be here. Then when our I is 3, it becomes 2 times 3. Then the multiplication will be done. Then it becomes 6 over here. Okay. So let's run this. Uh, I initialize my eyes. Int I. Okay, so let's enter 4. Okay, so as you can see, 4 times 1 is equal to 4, 4 times 2 is equal to 8, 4 times 3 is equal to 12, and so now to 4 times 12, which is 48. Okay, let me try something. I want to see if I can declare the variable here and import it inside my for loop. Okay, so let me run this and see. Okay, so that one also works. Okay, so you can as well declare your variable and initialize it here at the same time instead of declaring it at the top. So all of them goes inside. So either you declare it here, then you assign the value immediately. So inside, then you assign the value, then you write the condition, then you either do your increment or decrement. Okay. So the multiplication, you start from 1. So and the number we are multiplying, we take it before we start the loop. So if it is 2, then you start the loop so that it becomes 2 times 1. Then if 1 increase to 2, then 2 times 2, then you choose the result. So here is the multiplication that the user has entered. And here is the I that will be increasing. And here will be the value for the multiplication. So that is for that one. So like you've already come to know that you place the value, the names of the memory or the what the placeholders will be placed in the order of the way you show your placeholders. Okay, so that is it for the multiplication table. Okay, so that's the example we have, similar to the one that I wrote. That's the explanation I've explained. Okay, so this one says write a program which asks the user to enter the current year. So you ask the user to enter the current year, then you print out the year starting from the current year to the past 100 year. So we start from the current year to the past 100 years. So this one you are starting from the top to the bottom. Okay. And this one also prints out year starting from the past 100 year to the current year. So this one will start from the lower to the current year. Okay. So first you ask the user to enter. So you ask the user to enter the current year. So enter current year. Okay. Then we get the year from the user. Okay. So here we are going to print. So our I prints from the current year to the past. Okay, so the current year to the past. So here we can have int past. It's 100 years ago, so our current year minus 100. Okay, so that's the past. So we are going to start from this one says we should print from here starting from the current year. You are starting from the current year to the past. So you are starting from the top to the bottom. Okay, we are starting from the top to the bottom. So our I can be our current year means from the bottom to the descent, like I said, it's going to be greater than. So once is greater than or equal to our past, then top to the bottom is decrement. So I minus minus. Okay, then we print out our value of our I. So if you want it to be vertical, each of them will be on a new line. Okay. Then we print out the value of our I. Okay. So now we are starting from our current year. So our I is our current year. Now, so while our I is greater than or equal to our past will end over here. So when it gets to this and when it is lower than that, it will not go through the loop. Now because we are starting from the top to the bottom, we are going to do increments. Okay, so I will be decreasing until it gets to 100 years ago. So when it passed 100 years ago, the condition will fall because it's not greater than that. Okay, so I'm in 2000 and 2021. I'm in 2021. So if I enter 2021, okay, okay. So 2021, it went in 1921. 100 years ago is 1921. So that's where it ends. Okay, so 2021, 2020, 2020, 2019, 2018, 2017, 2016, 2015 until 1921. Okay, now from the top to the bottom, now from 100 years ago to the current one. Okay, so here Our I is going to be our past because we are starting from our past. And from the bottom to the top is less than. So less than or equal to our year. Okay. Then that one will increase. So we increase from the bottom to the top. Okay. So we increase. So we run the code. 2021. Okay. So as you can see, it started from 100 years ago. 1920 and increase 1920, 1922, 1923, 1924, 2000, 2001, 2002, up to 2021. Okay, so that's it. So for top to the bottom is decrement, and you use greater than. From the greater than or equal to, then from the bottom to the top we use less than or equal to. In that one we use increment. Okay, so top to the bottom, decrement, and greater than or equal to. From bottom to the top is increment and less than or equal to. Okay, so that's basically how you write your condition. Okay, so that's it. So this is an assignment. It says write a program which asks the user to enter one to calculate the force of a body, then two to calculate the work done by a body. When the option is entered, the program should ask the necessary information, compute, and show the result. When the program finishes, the user should be given an option to enter a letter to exit the program or any other letter to continue the program. So there are two assignments, okay? So I'm going to do that of assignment one over here. Then you do that of assignment two, and if you have any challenge, you can contact me. So I'm going to do the first one. So the first one, we are going to put our code in the loop because it says it keep on it's supposed to repeat until the user enter the letter. So we are going to use the same exit technology. Then we'll put our application code in our loop. Okay, when it tells the user to choose the option, then we check the value of the option, then we write the necessary code for that option. Okay, so we start with our loop. So first we initialize our control variable. So char exit is equal to C. Okay, so while our exit is not equal to E, okay, we'll run this code. Okay, so once we are done, it asks the user to enter E to exit or any other letter to continue. Okay, then we get the value from the user. So scan F. Now because we do the comparison, our placeholder is supposed to be S. So parenthesis S, then we indicate our memory. Our memory is exit. So end exit. Okay. So this line of code, so this block of code controls the loop. Then we write our actual application here. Okay. So you can either write a function, then you call the function here. Okay, so if you decide to write a function, you have to write a function prototype. So maybe void, let's say, calculate. Okay, so if you have the name of the function, calculate. So you can write your function here. So void calculate. Okay. So in this function, you declare the option. So int option. Then we ask the user to printf enter 1 to calculate false or 2 to calculate work done. Okay. Then we take the option the user has selected from the user. So scanf %d memory that will store the values option. Okay. Now we check the option the user has chose. So if our option is equal to 1, you can as well use a switch. So any one now you want to use. So if our option is equal to 1, it means the user wanted to calculate false. So we'll do the necessary listen. We can declare our mass, so double mass and acceleration. Then we print F, then we get the value from the user. Enter the mass of the body. Okay, we get the mass from the body, then from the user to percentage LF. This is double. So mass. Then we do that for acceleration. Enter the acceleration. New gravity. Okay, then we get the acceleration. Okay, so here it can multiply. So our double force is equal to our mass times acceleration. Okay, then we print out the result. So print F, the force of a body of mass. So our placeholder for the mass. So percentage F. So the mass can be in kg. Okay. At an acceleration due to acceleration due to gravity of our placeholder for our acceleration mass per second square. Then it's the placeholder for our force. Percentage F is in our force is Newton. Okay. So we'll indicate our placeholder variable. So the first one was mass, the second one was acceleration, and the third one is force. Okay, so that's for. So this is option 1. If user enters option 1. So if user enters option 2, is if our option is equal to 2. Okay, so it's almost the same, just that we have to ask mass, a distance, because work done is mass times acceleration times distance. So it is almost the same, but we ask the distance in addition. So here we will have a distance. So we ask the user to enter the distance. So the distance, to enter the distance. Okay, then we get the distance value. So our work done will be equal to mass times acceleration times distance. Okay, so the work done on the body of mass acceleration due to gravity of this distance percentage F meters. This is yeah, joules. Okay, so here we have mass, we have acceleration, we have distance, we have work done. Okay, we have our work done. Okay, so that's our function. So if our option is 1, this block of code will be executed. If our option is 2, that block of code will be executed. So we can call our function in our while loop. So it will execute that function before when it's finished. We can call our function here. But when it's finished, then the user will have the option to exit or to run the lesson again. So here we can print out what the application is about. Printf work work force or work done calculator. Okay, that's the title of our software. So then this will be the instruction. Then we get the option the user has selected. Then if the option is 1, then you run this line of code. If it is 2, then run this line of code. Okay, so let's do the run. Okay, so enter. Okay, this one needs to start with a new. Start this one a new line. And the instructions also need to start from a new line. Okay, so let's run. So force or work done calculator. Enter 1, 2, or 2. So if I decide to use 2, so enter the mass of the body. So let's say 20. Enter the acceleration due to gravity. So let's say 30. Enter the distance. So let's say 30. Okay. So it does the calculation. Then enter U to exit out. And if I enter C, then it will repeat again. Okay. But I need to start the editing code, start on the new line. So I can start my listening. Okay. These ones, it seems like I don't need them because the, when it says the input, it starts on a new line anyway. I don't need this one, these new lines. So let me try again. Okay, here to let me write greater than when I'm taking the value. Code can be a little bit fancy. Okay, so enter. So if I choose one, enter the mass of the body. So 20. Enter the acceleration due to gravity 9.8. Okay. So the force of a body of mass 20 kilogram at an acceleration due to gravity of 9.8 meters per second square is 196 newtons. Enter this. So if I enter C, it continues. So this time if I choose 2, okay. So enter the mass of the body 20 acceleration due to gravity 9.8 distance 40. That's the calculation. So this joules. Enter E to exit. So it's I enter E, then it exits my application. Okay. So in this case, you can write a function to be executed. So in the loop, it will call the function. If you don't want to, if you are not using the function, then all this block of code where I have over here, all this block of code will have to come in your while loop. So if you don't want to use the function, all this block of code will have to be in your while loop. Okay. So all this block of code will be in your while loop. So it will execute. And after that, then it will ask the user. Okay. So it also works in that way. So based on however you want it. So if I enter one, so enter the mass of the body 20, 30, acceleration due to gravity 10. Okay, so the force of a body of this, enter E to exit C2. So if I enter E, then it exits. Okay. So in the looping, you decide how you want to do it. If you want to use a function, you write your function, then you call your function in the loop. Okay, so once the function has been executed, then you write this statement so that it will exit the loop. In case the user enters C, then this condition will be false so that it exits the loop. Okay, but thank you very much, and I think that is the end of today's lesson. So you try to do the second question. If you have any challenge, you let me know. So the second question says write a program which asks a student to enter the score. The student should be alerted the gift to be given by the teacher based on the score. The gift table is shown below. Okay. So if your score is 90 and above, you say laptop. Okay. So if it's 80 up to and less than 90, I4 in that order. Okay, so remember this is similar to the grading system. So you use the concept of the grading system we've seen at the top. Okay, to show the whether the person is getting an iPhone or not. Okay, so when you finish running the other one, you ask the user to enter E to exit or any other letter to continue. Then the user can continue over and over again. Okay, so that's it for today. And thank you very much for watching the video and hope to see you another time. If you have any challenge, you contact me. You can send me a message on Google Chat. You can take a snapshot of your code, your error, and I'll get back to you. Thanks. And remember, this work is supported by a voluntary donation, so any contribution is warmly welcome, so that it will motivate the lecturers who have been teaching on the site to do more, even though it is fun teaching, but you also need motivation once and for all. And also for the site to be active every now and then to help others also acquire the knowledge as well. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Bye. Thank you very much.